we're using AI tools to help us make more of those personalized experiences and flows. But essentially, then that's helping the user experience, the consumers, to not need to rely just on AI for the information, but to say, oh, this company, these experts have this, and I'm invested in what they're teaching me, showing me, and what their products, their solutions, their services can do.
AI isn't the future, it's now. And whether you're in HR, sales, operations, or leadership, the choices you make today will determine whether you thrive or get left behind. In today's episode, we're sitting down with Amanda Downie and Todd Cramer, two professionals who are shaping how AI connects with people through storytelling, design, and strategy. Amanda brings a content lens from her work at IBM, while Todd brings a human-centered UX perspective from a career that's spanned advertising, design, and digital transformation. Together, we're diving into how AI intersects with the creative process, what makes design truly user-first, and why storytelling and empathy still matter, maybe more than ever. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
How did I do on the intro?
you.
Great.
That was fantastic.
Was it all lies? Or are you going to tell us a little bit different, Tell me some background, Amanda. Tell me something different that wasn't in here.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
My background actually is in performing arts.
Okay.
So I spent years being a professional actor, director, playwright, stage manager, and connecting with audiences in a different way, storytelling in a different way, and through the twists and turns of life, eventually went more the business route, got my MBA, all that jazz, and honestly, accidentally ended up at IBM.
Okay.
I came there because I was assigned to there as a contract writer for a bit, and it was going to be like a 6-month or 12-month stint. That's it. And 6 years later, we've just evolved the role and to be there permanently. So yeah, it is pretty accurate.
All right, Todd, tell me a little bit more about yourself that wasn't in the notes.
So the underpinning of all of that is I've spent years in UX research, a long time at IBM since I joined in 2018. And so the entire time I've been at IBM, I've been looking at the end-to-end journey and understanding user behaviors and using research methodologies and testing methodologies to validate design decisions. And so all of that kind of comes together cross-disciplinarily in design with content and, creating web experiences and ensuring that we're creating experiences that work because they've been proven and tested to work. So, data-driven analysis and decision-making is sort of the umbrella that encompasses my entire career and has brought me to where I'm at IBM today.
That's pretty awesome. I think before we, went on camera, I shared that I actually started my career in 1998 at IBM as well. And I started in the human factors group, which I guess is kind of quasi UX related back then.
Yep.
Right. And I guess it's kind of evolved, and I'm sure it's been reorged and changed and new names and titles, but that's pretty exciting, right? This isn't actually an IBM podcast here.
No.
Right. But we've
Surprised
all
we know
kind
what
of
we
share that.
That's right.
Amanda has her IBM Big Blue on right now, but we're not going to judge. So we're going to dive in here, right? We're going to have a little fun, have a little discussion here. So, I want to start with your worlds right here, Amanda and Todd. What do your roles look like on a day-to-day perspective, right? Yeah, we're talking about AI. This is AI voice of victim, right? But how is AI? You talked about a background that's radically different than where you are right now.
That's true.
So I need to understand that story arc. So what does day-to-day look like?
Day-to-day for me, it's all about content and storytelling, essentially. And, whether I'm helping my writers and we're creating content for search, whether that's education articles, blogs, branded thought leadership, podcasts, videos, whatever it is, essentially it is still how are we telling the stories that, need to be told, connecting to the audiences we're trying to capture for the business and working across the company, right, with other people in marketing and comms, sales, product to make sure that we're connecting the dots for more of a holistic journey for people. And so, AI is both a challenge that we have to address with search, and it's changing how people are acting with their web search and those audience behaviors. So we have to adapt to that. But at the same time, we're also using AI tools, right, to help us be more productive or to be able to scale faster, and be more effective ultimately.
That's awesome. And Todd, how does that change your world, or is that similar? Or what's the overlap? How do you guys work together, or do you work together?
That's a really good question. We work tangentially. I'd say the content that Amanda and her team are responsible for is related to the work I do, but not 100% tied to it. So my work is really focused on getting users to experience our digital properties, understand our products, the way AI comes through for me. So I lead UX design, visual design, and UX research, like I said earlier. And heat maps and data analysis is, I'd say, an area where AI is playing a role, where we're using AI tools underpinning some of the analytics platforms we're using to understand gaps and behaviors. We also use it for what you would think designers would use it for: rapid prototyping, iteration, coming up with ideas that wouldn't have been created or generated as quickly manually as they are with AI. So, it's like Amanda said, it's a productivity hack, it's a growth hack, it's us being able to get more done in a shorter amount of time, which, the environment now moves so quickly that the speed that AI gives us to adapt and execute is really helpful in our work processes day to day. I also use it for meal planning and for workout planning in my personal life. So that helps me save a lot of time in my personal life as well, so I can spend more time doing the things I like.
You cannot underestimate the personal productivity apps. That's great.
I don't disagree. I call it my Diane rule. I have a friend, Diane. She said, "Can you guys please stop talking about recipes and meal prep?" I said, "It is the thing that I think brings us all together," right? I don't know how many episodes we've done at this point, but I got to say probably 80% of them, someone has referenced food or meal plan. Sometimes it's me, right? That's kind of leading the witness, if you will, right? But in this instance, you said it right out the gate. You guys brought up something that's very top of mind for me, which is the impact of AI on search. I've been talking to folks now for 9 or 10 months, and I always describe it as, I always say, hey, in May of 2024, Google turned the lights off on a lot of organizations when they went to AI overviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you also fold in ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude now having, search capabilities. And I would ask all these executives, and I was same fundamental question. And I asked almost 70 executives, I said, how often do you scroll past the AI overview or click through? 98% of them said almost never. And this is last October, November, December, because I was already tracking the trend, and folks weren't really paying attention. They were like, oh, I don't think that's really the problem. It's like, well, if 98% of your peers said that they've also not clicked through, I got to imagine it's going to affect you pretty quickly here. So I want to understand your perspective on where is AI search today and where do you see it going? It's a broad question, but do you understand? First of all, do you even agree with the point? If you don't agree with the point.
Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely agree that it is impacting search. I mean, you can't deny it. It's impacting search, and the degree to which companies are going to feel it, if they've already felt the worst of it or if it's changing, I'm not sure yet. I would say that, where do I think it's going? I think one of the things it's going to do is put pressure on organizations, especially, large organizations, enterprises, to, when they are considering search, it's not just the traditional playbook of SEO, it's LLM visibility, right? And so how are you still staying authentic to what you're creating, but, making sure that you're visible to that side of things, but also to the models that are now scraping things. And my upline boss, Brian Casey, he's a brilliant guy, and he's he's similar to you. I mean, he's been tracking it for a while and keeping an eye on it. So we have a strong team, and we're constantly trying new things. But I think one of the places of value where we continue to push and say, all right, how can we actually beat this, is to have really this omni-channel plan that's not copy-paste, right? And is giving a deeper value, a deeper expertise to the consumer, right? And that's going to resonate. And in that sense, it's giving something that AI overview or these other LLMs can't quite give. And so it takes it that plus one step.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. You call it omni-channel, and you're describing, I would, paraphrasing here, but creating more immersive type of experiences that can't just be easily scraped and replicated inside of AI search.
Yep.
So Todd, what's your take? You're in a UX. We're going to get into the impact on what it's doing to the research and the user behavior business in general. But what's your take on AI search, and what are you doing to? I call it the lead flow crisis, is how I've dubbed it. I was like, the lead flow crisis is real between that and then. Sorry, I promised to let you talk here. I'm going to shut up in a second.
No,
but
please go.
The other thing I say, between organic search basically being dying quickly. Okay, I'm not going to be the person that says it's dead. You have to do SEO. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things you should do, right? But the other part, I talk about cold email, right?
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm in your newsletter or a subscriber, I may open it. I said, but if it's cold email, you'll never transact me. I said, there's two forms of cold email right now: scam and spam, right? And half the time your team is always trying to figure out, is this a scam or is this just spam?
Right.
Right. And so I always talk to folks. I'm like, look, the ocean that was Google has dried up. What ponds are you going to fish in now? Right. Where are you going to find business? Big companies like yours, right? You have an advantage that the smaller orgs don't have. You have brand recognition. You have visibility, right? You have a level of awareness. Right. So I'm trying to help a lot of smaller fish at times with AI voice of victim, but learning from some of the big players out there. So Todd, I'll shut up now.
Please don't. But to your point, it changes how people search for information and discern information. And so as a result, companies like ours, regardless of your size, you need to change your search strategy to make sure that you've got that unified comms approach and that you're not leaning too much on one channel to drive business, especially in such a changing environment. So considering what, like Amanda said, what kind of content you have available out there, making sure your content strategy for the public content that can get scraped into an LLM and then turned into those search results, it just changes the way I think you have to strategize for getting information out there to particular audiences. And then honestly, there's a part of it that you can't control that makes this even more difficult to overcome in terms of lead capture, right? It's not just that search that's going to drive interest, because it could not be 100% accurate all the time based on however the LLM perceives your data and pushes it back out. So, I think it's something that we're going to have to, we and all businesses will have to look at continuously over time as the landscape continues to evolve, and understand how to optimize those channels to drive the business and, towards the goals that we need to achieve. I don't think anyone has it figured out yet.
Yeah. Here's my big takeaway so far. Todd immediately jumped to the unified comms verbiage, which I really love that. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree, right? And that's why also I want to make sure that we have folks like yourselves on here, experts that are in this space, that are playing this game every day at the highest level, because people need to understand no one has clearly figured it out. Last November, I started going down this rabbit hole of answer engine optimization, and I registered the domain, what is AEO? And then I stopped because I was like, wait a minute, this thing is effectively a black box that I don't know how it works. And I also don't know if it's going to change every 5 minutes. Right? Are you able to share any of the tools you're using to create this greater amount of content and get things out faster? Like, what's your tool set?
Creating content faster. First and foremost, I just have a great team of writers, right? And they stay hungry. They stay curious. And And I think leveraging, keeping it human-centered is how we're going to be more authentic. And, but what I love about some of the AI tools that we have, and I fully admit, like, we've got IBM Consulting Advantage, which is great. I run, we build stuff on our Granite models and some other approved models. But honestly, we've built some agents that help us to synthesize the amazing amount of audience and market research that we have, right? And then I can also have an agent that's, helping me as a content strategist to say, all right, look at our current footprint, looking at this summary of audience information, looking at these personas, where are their gaps? Where are their opportunities? And so if you can get to the what do we need to make, right? Where are there opportunities to either optimize things, to create new content? Who are we going after? And then, tailoring and tweaking that helps us to be able to, as you're saying, speed up the process of creating a lot of content, but not just copy paste creating generic content, really personalizing it to this particular audience segment. And honestly, one of the things that we also are leaning into is, IBM Consulting alone has like 160,000 consultants in it, right? It has so many experts, right? So how can you enable them? They may not be confident writers, but how can you use the RAI tools to help them at least get to a first draft, get to a place where we can then help them optimize it and bring something to the table, their expertise, their experiences that you can't just generate with, right? You're not going to get that from just a zero-click search. So those are some of the things the tools that we use. And honestly, I mean, humans just kind of have to give it up. Like, sorry, AI is real good at the workflow optimization. So you can help us speed that up, then that's another tool that we're like, all right, yep, that helped us go faster. Cool.
I love hearing about the human and machine collaboration, right? And layering, that's part of, like, I always say for AI voice victim, either you're, when it comes to AI, either you're riding a wave or you're getting crushed by it, right? We're in this era, and I always tell folks, my dad's a retired truck driver, and he always say, son, I don't care what side of the road you're on, but you can't stop in the middle of it, right? And there's a lot of folks.
That's good advice.
There's a lot of folks, though, that I'm seeing feel like they're frozen, right? They're stuck. They're stopping, and they're trying to understand, is this am I going to be replaced, or should I not lean into these tools? And I tell the folks here at Walk West, I'm always creating a safe space for people to play around these tools and learn about these technologies. I take it upon myself. I have 25 certifications, and I'm just constantly trying to learn and understand, because this stuff is moving so fast. And every time I take a new course, I'm like, I didn't know I could do that. Now I have something else that I can do, and I can try. And to your point, it is really good at automating workflows. So, Todd, we gave you enough time now. Now you got to come up with a brilliant answer.
Let's go.
Now, a brilliant response.
No promises.
All right.
He is brilliant. So
my perspective is a little different, right? So, leading design, we work together with content teams to make sure that the content and the design assets within our experiences complement each other. And you raised an interesting point earlier with personalization and the amount of content that has to be created in order to get the kind of engagement or conversion that you're looking to achieve, which is constantly growing each year, and you're every year comparing it to the previous year, and you need to outdo it. But in such a rapidly changing environment, it's so volatile that it's difficult to keep a consistent strategy. So the way I see it is we've got to create more content. Our design teams, we don't have unlimited budgets. We don't have, all the resources at our disposal. So AI is a tool that can actually create more of that volume that we need to deliver in order to engage and convert those audiences without having to, bolster a ton of, or, pour a bunch of money into it. We've got a similar sized team, but we're able to do more. And so sort of farming out the transactional design creation. For example, say you've got, we've got geographies all over the world. Different content resonates with different cultures and different markets. And so being able to create geo-specific content rapidly and iterate on that based on the performance you see in the wild is something that AI can help with pretty quickly. There are things AI can't do. It can't do the nuance of human perception and interaction. So to your point, like human and AI collaboration is, you said it perfectly. AI is a tool that we can use. It's not here to replace anybody. It's here to augment and boost our processes so we can do more. And if we embrace it as a tool that we can use rather than be frozen by, then we're leading how AI is used in our workflows as designers, right? Not just at IBM, but everywhere. So, creating a psychologically safe environment where it's okay to take risks, it's okay to fail. You learn from failure as long as it's productive and you could keep positive momentum with it. I mean, there's not really a risk to exploring the capability of some of these tools and how they can enhance our processes. I think the risk is not exploring it.
100%.
Yep.
I'd say the
100%.
greatest risk right now is doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
If you do nothing, if you stand in the middle of the street, right? Maybe not in 5 seconds, maybe not in 5 minutes, but at some point you're going to get run over.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, as someone, we had a guest recently, he said, run into the fire that is AI. He's like, you have to run towards it, not away from it right now. And you really have to leverage it. I think one of the things you said the word transactional, and it made me think of something, which is a lot of times I'm hearing conversations now, and I've been saying this for a while to folks here at Walk West and our clients and a lot of my colleagues, which is there's a fundamental difference now of informational content versus transactional content, right? The informational content, the blogs, the people, the how-tos, the listicles that people have come to love, and it's like that's great. That's going to just get gobbled up by AI, and no one's ever going to come down to your site. They're never going to click through, right? Which makes sense. So, are you prioritizing informational versus transactional? Is there different ways that you're slicing and dicing the content for different purposes or thinking about it that way? I'll start with you, Todd.
Definitely, because different audience segments have different needs at different times. And so looking at the content more atomically for the purpose of where those different segments are at the time in their journey, I think is even more important. Yeah. I mean, Amanda, you've got to have a perspective on this as it relates to the sort of content that you create. I mean, the content I create is very, like external product evaluation driven, whereas the content Amanda and her team work on is more thought leadership. And so I think the goals of the content between our two teams are different, but it all kind of feeds up into the overall journey, right? So looking at a user's experience as a service journey and the different touch points from start to finish, and then how to continue to nudge them using transactional content at the right time based on where they're at in their journey, I think is sort of the name of the game.
No, I think you touched on it perfectly there with, it's what do they need in their moment, right? And this kind of gets into the idea of what's going to resonate in any given moment, in any given space. And that's not going to be the same answer for the CIO versus the PhD student versus the, program engineer. And it all has value. It's just different types of value. So I wouldn't say that we're prioritizing one over the other. I think we're trying to figure out how does that create a holistic experience that gives it the most value it can. So if we can educate, with our traditional, like, what is AI? What is an AI agent? Right. But if we create, which we did sort of a hub, a guidebook, essentially, that starts you there, but then takes you into, all right, and how do you use this? What are the use cases? What are the actual technical aspects of this? How would you build it? How can you fine-tune something? Now apply it. How can you demo it? And all of that is in a single experience that doesn't force people to go searching 17 different directions. They have this flow, and all of a sudden they're like, yes, I want to try that. well, then you have gone from informational to transactional, and you've helped them do it, right? You've made that journey easier. So we're using AI tools to help us make more of those personalized experiences and flows. But essentially, then that's helping the user experience, the consumers, to not need to rely just on AI for the information, but to say, oh, this company, these experts have this, and I'm invested in what they're teaching me, showing me, and what their products, their solutions, their services can do.
Yeah. No, that was very well articulated. I think that creating these engaging, immersive, however you're defining experiences and keeping that contained audience is going to be critical for organizations. My fundamental belief, and I've been saying this for a while, so again, the reason why I named the show AI Voice of Victim, as I said, by the end of this, and this is what I said at the beginning of the year, I said by the end of 2025, there could be a potential existential crisis as it relates to smaller companies getting displaced, people not understanding what to do or how to do things. And, my full view is AI is not here to replace you, right? But I'm also very pragmatic, right? And people are going to use it as an opportunity to create greater profitability and things. Those are going to be more the short-sighted companies. And I would, not to say it in a negative way, right? Like I get it. Like I get the behavior and why you would do it. There's so much pressure from the external world, not just related to AI. I was talking about this, before there was tariffs, before there was other things that are, challenging business environments, right? But what I tell people all the time is like AI is the one tool that can actually help you cut through all of these things where you can actually grow your business, whether it's revenue, however you're defining that, leads, whatever, right? While also reducing your cost structure in a way. Because what I try to tell folks, I'm like, look, you don't have to worry about AI replacing you if your company goes out of business. You're all going to be replaced, right? And so you need to understand we're quickly moving from carrot to stick, not just because these folks are, sure, there are going to be some CEOs and executives that are greedy, but there are some folks that are they're like, hey, man, I won't have a business if I don't lean into this. Google had to shift their business model because they had a Blockbuster meets Netflix moment.
Yep.
What were they supposed to do? Market sophistication. You brought up the user experience. There used to be a time, I remember talking to some folks it was like 10 or 12 years ago. Sorry to get sidetracked here, but
it's great.
Right. But it was, someone referenced, they said, it used to be the best technology you ever engage with and interface with was at work.
Yep.
Until the mobile era came and the iPhone and everything. And then it felt like you were going into these companies and you were taking a step backwards, right? I think we're quickly getting to that point again where the market sophistication, the expectation, we're still in a bubble. Like the three of us are in this tech space, right? You guys are current IBMers. I'm a former IBMer, right? But still you're talking about what, 5% adoption right now? Like you go to these different cities and people say, well, everyone's using ChatGPT. I'm like, no, they're not. Like you say that because of the 5 people around you and they're 5 people, but you're all in the tech space or in the research.
Right.
And someone had a great comment to me. I was listening to something and they said, you could tell the vibe of a city based on its billboards. And so I was in San Francisco for a bunch of conferences recently. I was in Austin and South by Southwest. You go to those cities, it's all about AI, all the billboards. I don't know. I've seen one in this area, right?
That's such a great point. I actually moved to Raleigh from San Francisco where I joined IBM, and it was a much different environment. I mean, you're right. The billboards everywhere you go are all AI focused, all data focused, lakehouse focused, all that kind of stuff. Here it's different. I think you're right. It's interesting because where we work, we have access to enterprise AI tools as well, like Watson X. We've got agentic AI that we, can tap into as part of our workflows too. So you're right. We probably are in a bubble. I think that gives us an opportunity to share kind of what can be done without that fear, because we're closer to it, and be champions for what AI can do, as well as be champions for people, right? So to your point, AI, are we victims of AI? No. I think we can use AI as a tool to empower ourselves to do more work and to put ourselves in the front of how this, how work itself is changing.
Yeah.
You're right. It is. We are closely connected to it, and I think that's our opportunity to champion more of it for those that don't hear it.
I take it upon myself every time I hear someone says, well, everybody's using this, to just stop them in their tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you actually track the data and you track middle America, the rest of the world, everybody's not, right? Significant number of folks are not, right? And my concern here, right, I'm doing this whole show because I want to have zero victims, right? And so, but there's a tsunami that's coming, and the speed of change, and I get it, right? From my mother retired. She used to work Durham County Mental Health locally here many years ago, right? And we would always, so the psychology part of it, she was a caseworker, but I was always fascinated by the psychology of things. And I recognize and I understand that this is moving so fast that for us as humans, it's very hard for us to accept the rate of change. And the analogy I would use is I come from a family where my mom's family was tobacco farmers and my dad's side was cotton and peanut farmers, right? On the tobacco side, they had over a decade to see the writing on the wall and start to upskill and change. We don't have 10 years, right? The folks that are waiting, I call learning to talk to the machine a new form of typing, right? And I said the people that learned how to type a long time ago can blaze through any application, any work. And the reason why I say that is because whether you're using Suno to make music or Midjourney for imagery or others, like it's still the same prompting and conversation and NLP, natural language processing that's happening. So if you don't understand how to communicate with the machine, I don't care what tools you're using, right? You don't know how to type. And the people who know how to type are going to race past you, right? And so we haven't talked, you guys have talked a little bit in the abstract, and I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but what are the tools that are not Watson X that you guys are using in your day-to-day that are helping your... Well, what are the authorized ones? And then we'll talk off camera about what are the ones that we actually use as well.
I'll start. I mean, the easy one, which is the design tool I think a lot of folks are using these days, is Adobe Firefly, right? Like it's pretty easy to access. If you've got an Adobe Creative Cloud account, you can access Firefly. And so that's the lowest barrier to entry that I've seen, not only in my world, but in design across the world, is Firefly, and exploring how to use it to rapidly generate ideas and prototype new ideas and sort of, increase creativity rapidly. You mentioned Perplexity earlier. I use Perplexity for, research or fact-based checking. Mm-hmm. When I started using AI, I did start using it for search, but I feel like that's like a very early.
It's like AI 1.0.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely evolved since then. I use Copilot quite a bit in some of the admin or summarization or documentation work as a result of, certain meetings or decisions that are made and things like that. Those are the ones that I think are on the table pretty prominently.
I mean, it's cool that I was a big Adobe partner in a previous company that I was co-CEO. And this past March, I was at Adobe Summit on behalf of CMS Wire to basically do some media stuff, to talk to folks and understand. I kept telling them, I was like, it's going to, we did a preview and they're like, what do you expect? I was like, well, every conversation is going to be about AI. It's going to be about agency and agentic AI. They're going to unveil, more stuff as it relates to Firefly. And I think, Shantanu and that team at Adobe have done a great job of positioning Firefly as the ethically sourced. It's all contained. You don't have to worry about being sued from copyright, right? Everyone has their own kind of slant and their positioning. I think Adobe's is slick, and it's kind of how Claude was also, when at first Anthropic was trying to be the more ethically and more, we're not going to connect to the internet. I'm like, all right, until you need to, because I got tired of saying my data everything I was trained on was outdated as of October of 2023 or whatever the thing it would say. I'm like, that's not going to work for me, player. Yep. Like, we're going to have to figure something else out. But I think are you using Perplexity's new Comet browser at all, or playing around with that? Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Right, so Perplexity has its own browser.
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI is going to have his own browser.
I need that. Yep.
It's like we're in this arms race, right? So they all dropped something, and then Grok 4 just came out. So people are saying now that ChatGPT 5 is going to come out, right? Because you can imagine, I always tell folks, I'm like, end of the day, a lot of these foundational models are all converging within 5% of the same capability. So maybe it doesn't have it today, but it'll probably have it in a month, right? Exactly. Whatever that thing is. But so what are the tools you're using, Amanda, in your workflow? And
I mean, pretty similar. I don't necessarily use Adobe Firefly, but I certainly benefit from the people around me who do. we certainly are using a lot of the other Adobe products alongside, our whole site. We're on AEM and such. So Microsoft Copilot helps me a lot with just some of the workflow stuff. And again, as Todd was saying, with meeting summarization or, extract what are the to-dos on X, Y, and Z, or, hey, help me check this email real quick. Is this following the right tone of, X, Y, and Z for this company? So that helps. Within the Consulting Advantage platform we have, we can tap into a bunch of different models, right? So I can use the Llama models. I can go, use OpenAI's models, and so we do that. I do use Claude for sometimes for some of my creative brainstorming, especially when I'm trying to title podcasts, man, or like podcast episodes.
People say Claude, it just gets them, right? A
It
lot of the
gets
writing
it.
and coding community
Yeah.
love the vibe that is Claude.
Yeah. So if I'm really stuck, I'm like, I don't know what to title this episode, man. I'm stuck and my brain is frozen. And, with some of our stuff, we turn it around so quickly, right? The more news shows, sometimes I'm just like, all right, give me a bunch of ideas. Here's all this information. Give me some ideas. And so it does help. It does at least get the juices flowing when I feel stuck.
Yeah, it helps reduce that writer's block, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm not a writer, right? But I do a lot of, I've been a consultant for a long time now. So I do a lot of deep research. I do a lot of kind of, coalescing. I used to be really deep in Adobe Experience Manager, even going back when it was Adobe CQ. So when they first acquired Day years ago, and then when they acquired Magento, my old company, shout out Blue Acorn ICI, we were the first company to integrate AEM and Magento back then when they did the acquisition. And, so it brings me to a kind of a different thing that I want you guys' perspective on. I've been going pretty deep of late, just trying to understand the impact of search on e-commerce, right? And, as you know, Google with AI mode, Perplexity with their browser, and Perplexity in general, owning the whole customer journey is about to change radically, right? I get the sense that we're moving quickly to this, I don't know what's going to happen to these storefronts. I do know that Shopify and others are trying to create tighter relationships with OpenAI. I think Perplexity is using some tool or middle layer firmly or something so that customer data is passed. How are you seeing any impact or challenges or fear from the e-commerce community right now? Is that even really on the radar, do you believe?
Is it on the radar? Yes, I think it is. Do I think it's fear? I don't know. I don't know that I would use the word fear so much as the next challenge to
I like your positive spin on
to
that.
solve.
Glass half full.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I guess for IBM specifically, you're not a 114-year-old plus company if you haven't been willing to, take on, there's a change. There's a new challenge, right? The advent of the internet and how people, they were no longer going to card catalogs and looking up things in books. So I think there's a natural evolution. This is something we can take on. But in terms of e-commerce specifically, I think one of the things that we are seeing a lot of, again, you're right, you don't care where you've gotten the product from. So we see our business partners and this ecosystem of partners that can provide the solutions, that can provide the products and the services as being a really core strength, right? And so, again, it's not just, just this platform or just this product, but it's like, no, here's what you're looking for, and we're going to bring that to you, and we're partnering with whoever it is that we need to partner with to bring that solution ultimately to you, right? And I think that's a lot of what the consulting team does, and what the broader team and company champions, is the fact that they're sort of preparing for it already in how they have partners and ISVs and the ecosystem that they're building to address it.
That's why I bring on these smarter people that come from these bigger companies, right? Because I always tell folks, even time when I post stuff on LinkedIn, I try to repost someone else. I was like, hey, man, don't take my word for it. This is what other people are talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because I kind of gotten pegged as this alarmist when I started talking about a lead flow crisis. And I was like, man, I'm not an alarmist. I'm just paying attention.
Being
Like,
honest.
and like I can't live with my head in the sand or live under a rock. Like this world isn't changing at a fast pace. And what I would say to folks at Adobe, and I'll say is like, there's a fundamental difference when you're talking about enterprise clients, right? I'm not worried about the enterprise clients. They're going to be all right. My concern, right, especially in North Carolina where we are right now, is the bulk of jobs, the bulk of what we're doing is more Main Street. It's more, not just mom and pop shops, but you have $20 to $100 million e-commerce business and retailers that are about to get smacked in the face. And I don't know that they're paying attention the same way, right? Because if you're not showing up in the large language model, we talked about the Cloudflare data, the amount of effort that it's going to take, right? As marketers and folks that are tangential to marketing, attribution is about to be a nightmare. Go into your executives and your board meetings trying to explain, I know we only had one click through, but man, was it massive, right? This impression, all these other, vanity metrics. And that's one of the challenges I've been trying to get across to folks. I'm like, how you position this, the vanity metrics. I'm like, please stop talking about MQLs and clicks. That's why you don't have a seat at the table. You ask me why you have a seat at the table, because you're not talking about growth. You're not talking about the P&L. You're not talking about the things that actually matter for the business. And oh, by the way, all of those things have fallen off a cliff. So if you position yourself across those metrics, good luck.
Yep.
Right. And so we're at a point now, we're getting late into the conversation. We got to play a little game here. Do you want to say anything to that point, Todd, before we move on?
I was going to say, I think the bigger the companies get, the more tied into their technology stack they are. And there's actually a higher barrier to entry in terms of integrating AI tools into that stack. So to your point about small to medium-sized businesses and how can they use AI, I think there's lower barrier to entry there. There's more opportunity, less technological restrictions that you have to tie and integrate into in order to make sure all your data is connected and clean and working. And, I understand there's a fear that AI could replace the way business is done at those small and medium-sized business levels, but I think it's the same way. If you stay in touch with how business is changing and how business is being done, one thing at IBM that always sticks with me, Thomas Watson said, good design is good business, and good businesses constantly evolve to make sure that they're performing. If you don't evolve as a business, that's how you fail. That's how you fall off the cliff. And so not being afraid of the opportunity that AI can provide to businesses of all sizes, but look at the benefits of being on the earlier or the smaller side of business and how that could grow your business as a result of adoption versus veering away from it. I think, again, the scope of how you're using AI is different than a person or a designer who's, wants to make sure their job is safe. But again, I think the risk is not exploring the opportunity, not understanding how business processes are changing. And even to your point about hyper-personalization and how you attribute, business growth because of the extreme segmentation of the audiences and the content, the way digital experiences are being created is changing. Will web pages be created in the same way tomorrow that they were yesterday? No. The way search is changing, the way users and customers are arriving at that information is changing. How they evaluate in the marketplace is changing. And so, I think it's an interesting opportunity. I think it's a positive opportunity for everybody and for different reasons.
Yeah, I think again, the folks that lean in, right, I think you will have a competitive advantage. I think that, I took some courses at Harvard and MIT, and they talked about, incumbents can't disrupt themselves, right? It's kind of the Clay Christensen view at Harvard. Dr. Westerman has some counterpoints at MIT about some of these things and how you transform these organizations. But I agree with you, like the smaller organizations have I always tell folks, like, look, if you want to get true adoption, right? Because this technology impacts every human on the planet, which means it impacts every employee, not just the IT department, not just the marketing group. I said, you keep talking about how your business goals and the things you want to achieve, and you haven't told the 90% of the employees where they fit in the story arc, and you seem to be surprised that people aren't adopting AI.
Yeah.
Why would they give two shits about what you're trying to do if you haven't made it personal for them yet? And so what I tell the team here, and we're going through a little challenge and leaderboard, it's like, you got to do three things. You got to make it personal, you got to make it fun, and you got to make it safe, right?
Yep.
If you can make it personal, you start to get those unlocks, and then you're going to get more people to adopt it much faster, right? But you have to pay attention to the market here. All right, so we're coming to the end here. We play a little game we like to call Last Chat. So you got to bring your phone out, and you got to tell us in the audience, what was your last chat? Your last chat, did you feel good about showcasing? And I'm going to showcase mine as well. When I say showcase, just tell us what you were looking for and how you're achieving whatever tools you're using.
Yeah. So all right. Well, no, ChatGPT and I.
Okay.
I didn't even need to go.
Oh, you know exactly what you were doing? Okay.
I do. I know exactly what I was asking about. My son has recently gotten into hockey, and wants to play hockey, and this is one of the few sports that I know so little about and did not grow up following. And so ChatGPT and I have had some extensive conversations, not just on the rules of hockey and trying to teach me the lingo, but also like help for parents of new hockey players. Like, help me not seem like an idiot in front of the coaches.
How does my child keep his teeth?
Right. How do we keep brain cells, keep teeth, but also like do well? And what should I not do as a parent? Like, no, yay, you're doing great, but apparently I'm supposed to pound on glass instead. Like, so that's been my recent my recent chat has been teaching me all the things about hockey.
Wow. I played college basketball and baseball. I can't imagine telling my parents to just bang and scream, That's different, but
it's different.
I get it.
This is why I'm saying I need help.
But you made it personal.
I made it very personal. It was a very specific need.
The more that people make it personal, the more that they can understand, and then that's transferable to how they can help them in their day-to-day lives.
Well, exactly. And it's not like ChatGPT is going to go replace me as the hockey mom now for my son.
Todd and I are going to work on that. We're going to create this digital avatar. We'll use some HeyGen or something, and
we
haven't
my
talked
own
about
personal productivity.
Yeah.
Be like, I've got to be in two places at once. So digital avatar, go.
All right. That's awesome. Todd.
So I have a personal one and then a more work-related one.
All right.
The work-related one is me using Claude to fine-tune my prompts for prompt engineering and testing them against, outputs in certain models that we're using. I have found that to be super helpful because if I give it a context, it'll just give me a good starting point to start from rather than me have to, as a human, try to imagine what kind of prompt the system is going to interpret properly. It's kind of built on some best practices that I can just leverage right out of the box. Personally, I am also a Jordan's fan, and I recently tried to get the Jordan 5 Grape that just was released not too long ago, and they sold out in 20 minutes. Yeah, I kept putting a size 11 in my bag, and the second I'd go buy it, it would be gone. And I was like, I wonder if I could use any, I've got ChatGPT, but I've also got one of those aggregate tools that gives me every model available. And so I wonder if I could use these models to show me where there's an available pair of size 11s that I could buy, and I couldn't get it to work.
I don't know.
I finally happened upon a pair that I bought through manual processes, but that's how I wanted to use it. Is like, can it find the one pair of size 11 Jordan 5 Grapes out there and link me so I can just buy it or buy it for me? I couldn't do it. But
see, look, you just gave away the secret. Now everybody's going to do that. Nobody's going to go to the sneaker app. Everybody's going to just sit because we're those people obsessed. We sit there and it's like, all right, it goes on sale at 10 a.m. So like 9:58, I got 3 laptops set up. I got my phone.
You got to win a lottery still.
Yeah, right. And only one time I did that and ended up with 2 pair of Jordans. I still have one still in the box. It was going on 7 years now.
Nice.
I still have I was like, nope, not getting rid of it yet. And
you better wear them before they fall apart.
I know. You're correct, right? It's like any oxygen gets to those things, man. But all right. I wonder if like Goat or StockX or others are using agentic workflows to just go buy them all up.
They got to be, right? In StockX.
That makes sense.
So, all right. So mine is, I've been going down this rabbit hole of trying to understand consolidation in space. Like I have this firm belief that, there's going to be so many different tools, right? There's going to be a lot of losers. I was on a panel. They said, don't say losers. So we said non-winners. There are going to be a lot of non-winners.
Is that glass half full
right?
Again?
A lot of non-winners by the end of this year because, there's going to be the barrier to create software right now is so low, right? At the time, the competition is nearing zero, right? Some of the inference costs are coming down significantly. If you play around with Lovable or Hugging Face or some of these other tools, others, you can create things rapidly. And so what I was trying to understand was basically what happened to the Windsurf acquisition by OpenAI? What do you think is going to happen next, right? So folks that are watching, OpenAI said they were going to acquire Windsurf. They're beefing with Microsoft. They're having all these other challenges, pull out of the deal. It's like a $3 billion rumored deal. Google does an acqui-hire of the CEO and some top executives. The rest of the company was left dangling. Then Cognition AI comes in and basically acquires the remaining 250 people. And I was like, all right, what is this? What does all of this mean? And what is it going to do? Right. And so, long story short, I had to go search and it came back to me a very thoughtful breakdown and then kind of, all right, what comes next? And, what do they think OpenAI is going to do? I don't know if I agree with it. I haven't vetted this. As the human in the loop, I'm not going to just say stuff.
Well,
I try my best not on this podcast to create misinformation. That's not really the goal.
It's good.
Right.
Good attempt. Good goal.
But look, did I achieve that, Amanda? I don't know. You said attempt.
So what did it say?
What
was the response?
Now we're going to talk about offline here.
Okay, that's the offline. He doesn't.
They gave
He
me
just
some
said no
detail.
misinformation.
Right, but I don't. Yeah, I need to vet this as the human in the loop.
And I love that point, by the way. Like that is key.
Yeah,
human in the loop, and I think that's a big misconception and a big fear that people have is like, oh, the AI will replace me because the AI can do it all, beginning to end, and it's like, nope, no. First draft, not final draft. That's not what I'm saying with the AI content that gets produced, for example. So yeah, the human in the loop thing.
It is that human machine collaboration,
key.
right?
Is key.
Is critical. I always tell folks, I'm like, look, there are 5 C's in humanity that AI won't replace, and that's creativity, curiosity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. Right?
100%.
If you net down on those things and focus on those things, and then let AI do all the things that aren't those things, right? Do the mundane tasks that you didn't want to do. The average knowledge worker spends, I think last estimate I saw was somewhere between 20 and 22 hours a week, either searching for things to do their job, copying and pasting, or reformatting data. I don't know who the hell signed up for that. I certainly didn't hire for that. But anyway, so the 5 C's of humanity, I just want to say that you guys are great humans. Thank you, Amanda and Todd, for joining us. It's been an amazing show. I hope our audience learned a lot from you all. Thank you
so much.
Thank you so
learned
much.
a lot too, so thank you.
One thing before we go, I just want to say the critical thinking piece is not something we focused a ton on today, but that's the piece I think that is the thread through all of this working, is being able to discern what's auto-generated versus what's accurate and having a human perspective that will never not be valuable in this entire process. So I think you're right to raise that. And Amanda, you're 100% right. The way we look at AI is a people-enhanced tool, not a tool to replace people.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on AI, Voice or Victim. If you want to stay competitive in the AI age, start now. Take one insight from today's episode and put it into practice in the next 24 hours. Make sure to follow us, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more actionable AI insights. See you next time.